Targaryen who sits the Iron Throne is not just a king or a queen. They are a protector of the realm.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. I am Ruben, formerly known as Beau Oliver, joined here today with Aaron, and we are back to review House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 6, Smallfolk. And before we get into this review, I want to let you guys know that you can listen to this wherever you get your podcasts, and also follow us on social medias at Nerd Soup across all socials, and personals at Beau Soup, at Nerd Soup Monkey. Go ahead and give us a follow because we like to ask for questions, specifically on our Instagram. So people are always saying, where do I send in the questions? Instagram. We ask for them, you send them in. When we do the little question story thing, just don't DM us because we might not see it. And pledge to our Patreon if you want some Patreon podcasts. $2 for 3 a month and $5 for 5. Damn, look at that. Aaron, how are you doing on this fine afternoon, morning, evening? Keep them on their toes.
Doing good. A little upset. You know, some people drive, they let their dogs out the window. Well, this guy was driving like a maniac. I felt so bad for the dog. It's very dangerous.
You sure it wasn't Teddy? Because I feel like that could have been Teddy and Hunter.
No, it wasn't. I would have given Teddy a strong talking to, but this guy was driving out of control. The dog was just hanging with his head out the window. Too many things can go wrong. That
does always make me nervous. I'm always nervous the dog is going to jump out in the middle of traffic, and then then it becomes everybody trying to avoid him.
No, it's another possibility. Yeah, I know it's cute and all, but is the risk worth it?
You know, these days people put cute before safety.
Yeah, it's a shame.
I feel like a lot of people do that in Westeros. They want to be cute rather than be safe.
I'd rather be ugly and safe than cute and dangerous. That's just me.
Well, let's get into this episode. Smallfolk, episode 6, big episode. We were excited after episode 5 when they were talking about the dragon seeds, and we got to see them try it out, test that theory with Sir Steffan Darklyn. We also got to see Aemon come into his role as Prince Regent, getting bogged down in the politics of not only ruling a kingdom, but fighting a war. And we also saw Jason Lannister back in the mix. He opens the episode. I don't know what the fuck he's doing with those lions. He seems like it's just being cocky. Like, yeah, we ride around with lions. It's like a ridiculous thing. It's like what Tom Haverford would do on Parks and Rec. If I'm going to lead my host and our sigil's a lion, I need some real lions.
No, just in case they forgot.
He's probably got a bunch of lion tattoos on his body in case the actual lions couldn't make the trip.
Did I miss? Yeah, they tried to do like the little bit of the Reigns of Castamere.
Did they?
I don't think he deserves that.
You could kind of see them trending in that direction as to why Tywin had to do what he did, right? Because even Aemon says, is House Lannister fallen so far that they need me and my dragon?
Yeah, I think you got to earn that, you know.
Well, I mean, the main show didn't even earn their own theme, so.
Yeah.
Still upset about that. Well, let's get into the episode. Aaron, what did you think about this episode 6? Closing in on the end, but some things that we've been waiting for. I know people who have read the books probably excited about this episode, and also probably a little upset about things that they may be cutting. We're not going to focus too much on that, but overall thoughts on episode 6.
I thought it was just another fine episode. I think we were stringing a lot of these up so far this season where you kind of, 2 episodes left. It's been kind of disappointing in some ways. I'm still having a great time with the show. I still enjoy it, but I think it's lacking, especially when we don't get these big moments featuring the dragons. It just seems like we're continuing to struggle at some points with some of the dramatic scenes. And again, we'll talk about all the different moments and scenes from this episode. And I think there were a few standouts, but overall, some of the problems that we've been talking about throughout the season have continued. I was kind of ready for this to be the turning point in a lot of ways, where we end very strong with 6, 7, and 8. I'm just still waiting for it to ramp up to a point where it hits some of the highs that season 1 has. And so far, I haven't really gotten that.
I know so we got the information as to why George was upset. This idea that a wild dragon is roaming around the Vale. So that's where people who have read the books, it seems like they're going to remove a character that was going to be, not to spoil anything, it looks like they're going to remove a character that had something to do with that dragon that's in the Vale. So the dragon seed moment, I thought it was well done because it's a reminder that the dragons, maybe they're not gods, but they're the most powerful creatures on this planet. So it's a very much like the wand chooses the wizard, but in this case, the wand can burn you to death. If the dragon doesn't like you, he's just going to kill you. And human beings end up being their playthings. Even the way that, just to skip to the end, when he picks Adam, that wasn't Adam's choice. Adam didn't make the call to go to Dragonstone or to present himself in front of Rhaenyra's council and say, listen, I'm a bastard. The jig is up. Let me try my hand at this. So I like that point, but the way that it's written, it felt like everybody just descends on Dragonstone. Like they put the word out so that it doesn't at least get to Team Green, but to enough people. And it feels like there's nobody at Dragonstone, but enough people would get the word and dozens would swarm. And there was a chance to do like a montage of dragons just brutally murdering people, because that's just how it is. And this is the terrible choice that they have to make here, because they need dragon riders. So I did enjoy the scene. You know, it's sad, obviously, for our boy Stefan, especially because he thought he had him.
Yeah, he thought he had it in the bag. He was picturing his life riding the dragon, becoming king. Like, he had it all figured out. He thought his life was going to change forever. And it did, but in a very finite way.
Right, yeah, no, it definitely changed forever.
No, just picturing the montage, like Rhaenyra taking notes in the lab, looking up at a beaker of blood, trying to see if it has the right percentage of Valerian potency. That would have been fun.
Right, and even the conversation going back to episode 5, they're talking about how in other houses they have Targaryen blood because of nephews, nieces, brothers, sisters, whatever being married off. But they never specifically say bastards. So I think that is something that they missed. And I think there's even a hesitancy, being the royal family, Jace being a bastard himself, to even acknowledge that. So we see that Adam and Alan are both Corlys's bastards, and Corlys's children, some of them can ride dragons, others can't. They have that Valyrian connection. So yeah, there was an opportunity there for them to put it together. And there's that scene at the very end where Rhaenyra goes off to battle him. I don't know. I guess maybe she thought Team Green came up with that idea first. I'm trying to think of who on Team Green doesn't have a dragon that would even be qualified. You think Kristen's got that in him?
No, he doesn't, but
he was a dragon rider in season 1.
I can see them throwing out all the logic and being like, why don't you try to get a dragon, Kristen?
That would be some Star Wars shit. You just got to believe you're Valerian.
It's all about the confidence. That's what I like. It's like, don't be scared, okay? It's pretty fucking scary, though. I'd be trembling. I'd be shaking, sweating.
Well, I like it, too, because it's almost like Sea Smoke was offended. This guy's over here chanting these words that he just learned yesterday. You guys just taught him this. You know what? Let me pretend like I'm going to allow him to ride me and then burn him to a crisp and then burn one of you dumbasses. One of you dragon keepers. How dare you? It's funny because he looks different in this light. He doesn't have that same color that we saw him with in season 1, but I think there at the end you kind of see it, the different color scales on his chest. So that's cool. And I think whenever they do stuff with the Valyrian lore, I'm a sucker for that stuff. I know Game of Thrones gets a lot of credit and this world gets a lot of credit for grounding it in reality, but sometimes I remember these people are essentially wizards. They're dragon wizards, and it's cool to be reminded of that. And even when it's brought to the attention of Stefan Darkland, it just seems like a world that he can't even imagine that this would be possible, even though he does have that sort of far off connection. It's just so out of his reach, but he's still, he's loyal to Rhaenyra, so he's willing to sacrifice his life. But yeah, I thought there was room there to make it just nonstop, like you said, a montage of them back in the lab, different ways to kill them. Like one time the dragon just stabs him, just pushes him off the cliff. Ah! That could have been funny.
Shakes his head like, what are you guys doing?
Looks over at Jace, and Jace does like a little shrug.
You think this man's gonna ride me? Nope. Next. What is the game show with the chairs that spin around? Was that the voice?
Eric Andre show? Oh, yeah. The voice. Oh, yeah. Those chairs
Something
do
like
be
that.
Spinning on the Eric Andre show. Yeah, that would have been fun. Yeah, the dragons are just in the chair.
Ryan Seacrest is hosting the whole thing. Let's have some fun.
And the dragons are literally voiced by, you bring back Randy, Paula, and Simon.
Yeah, that's a no from me, dog.
But see, characters like Alan and Adam, we've gotten a couple scenes with them this season. And I'm trying to remember, did we get scenes with them in the beginning? I mean, in season 1? I don't think we did. Or maybe we did. But they're having that conversation where Alan's named first mate, and he obviously feels awkward about it. He doesn't want to think that he's a Nepo baby, that this is a Bronny situation. He wants to earn it. So he shaves his head, and his brother's like, yo, we can all, like, everybody knows. But even the conversation when he's like, you know, you need to let go of this dream. We're never going to be in that position. We're bastards. We have to accept that. And then later in the episode, he hits the lottery. Everything changes. But because we haven't really spent time with those characters, and this is a problem that they've run into since season 1, those moments aren't as epic as they could be. I think the way that it was directed, the way that it was shot, you know, from a technical standpoint, it is beautiful, and especially how fast that the dragon was moving, and the point, once again, that you are prey, you are a plaything, or maybe you can be a friend. So the way that they come together there at the end, it was epic, and it seems like outside of these epic moments, the show can be a little shaky. But when it's time to deliver those moments, they do provide a spectacle. If maybe not the same sort of satisfaction of seeing a character that you've known for a long time or you've gotten to know over the course of many episodes have something good happen to him. It doesn't have that same satisfaction, but they are, like I said, epic.
Yeah, and I think that's the best the dragon looked this season. And even like seeing the preview for the next episode, it just looks, I don't know, maybe it was just certain scenes, but it almost looks like it just looked better than what we've seen on screen so far. So I don't know,
like the look of the dragon,
or just the look, yeah, and like just some of the scenes and how they're shot and how they're lit. I might have just been seeing things, but it's just something I've noticed just from the preview. Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe I'm just making things up. But yeah, Sea Smoke looks incredible. And yeah, I think maybe the problem is when we have people riding on dragons or the background is a city or something like that. But I think the effects looked really good. And even in we first see Sea Smoke come up, I thought it looked very well done.
Right. I kept thinking that he was already there and that he was going to emerge from the shadow. But yeah, him climbing up, it was scary. I think many people knew it wasn't going to work out for this guy, but it was a good bait and switch. And you're just waiting for the inevitable to happen. You know that it's going to end in disaster for this poor man, and it certainly does. So they think that the plan has failed, or they go back to the drawing board. But once again, in the written material, it's everybody descends on Dragonstone. But maybe we will see more of that, because this isn't the last person who's going to bond with the dragon. I think that's not even a spoiler. You see these dragons out here, they're doing shit. People are going to try and claim them. And that's part of the fun of this storyline. This is one of the aspects that I think many people were excited to see. It's the thing I was most excited to see this season.
I mean, we still have time. There's other dragons and there's other people other dragon seeds around. So I don't think this was the full picture, you know, what we were looking forward to.
Well, what do you think about George being mad that there's a dragon in the Vale? Aren't you a creator on the show, George? I guess they just didn't take that note.
You know, I think George has been, I don't know, sometimes he's like very complimentary and sometimes he's like, you can tell some things that really bother him. And it's
this
just
is
funny
unprecedented, though, for him to be, not before the episode even came out, he was angry about it.
Yeah. Maybe just finish your book. That's my answer for anything George related. He could be right. You could tell me like 10 plus 10 is 20, and I'll be like, yeah, but like, what about that book? So that's my answer for all George things related. Love the man. Have his autograph, but
oh yeah, I guess I have his autograph too.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That was a fun night.
Yeah, it was.
Shout out to Clayton. Yeah, those scenes with Rhaena in the Vale when she's talking to the young Aaron boy, or that was a boy, right?
I thought you were talking about me,
Lord Aaron,
little Aaron boy.
I feel like you fit that house. I feel like you got Aaron in you. Knight of the Vale.
Very disrespectful or like very complimentary, depending on.
Oh, they got some good members,
right? But not all of them are like Aaron's.
Somebody recently asked me. Somebody recently asked me, what house do I think I am? Knowing me, I'm probably a Tully. Can't really seem to get things right. And they were like, you know what? You kind of remind me of a Targaryen because you're angry a lot. And I was like, I'll fucking take that. I'll be an angry Targ.
Like you run into the whole Harry Potter debate. It's like everyone wants to say Gryffindor, but once you say Gryffindor, you're like,
yeah,
right,
no, you can't put yourself.
You're not a fucking Gryffindor.
That's what Harry literally did do that. He put himself in Gryffindor, but he earned it. He earned it.
Yeah. Boy who lives. Come on.
Yeah, those scenes in the Vale are just, like I said, they're very weak. There's a wild dragon and it's burning sheep, stealing sheep, maybe some would say.
What would you name a dragon like that? It is funny how like some of the dragon names are like fucking ferocious and some are just like, you know how horses have weird ass names?
Yeah. They have funny names.
Yeah.
No, I'm waiting for the one dragon that's got the best name.
Oh,
God,
yeah.
if they cut that dragon out, I'm going to start writing blog posts that aren't going to be very complimentary of this show. Well, what did you think about the stuff in King's Landing? As I said earlier, Aemon taking on that role of king, and he's already belly aching. First, he feels disrespected by Jason Lannister when he says to meet him with haste when they're marching on Harrenhal, which isn't a terrible idea. Caraxes is no joke.
Yeah, I think, haste is a little strong. Who are you, Jason Lannister?
That is kind of crazy, dude, to be
Yeah,
testing
I'd be
the man.
offended. But like, if you were like, yo, like we're recording at 4:00, but like, come with a little haste. I'm like, okay, I'm taking my fucking time.
Yeah, like, Jesus, fucking relax.
Stopping at Dunkin' before. But yeah, I mean, we talked about it. I forget when we talk about things, but I'm pretty sure we talked about maybe how Alicent fits into this new era, and like right away getting called out by her son for being like, yeah, why are you still here? Like, what's your role again? Which she got slighted last week with obviously them choosing Aemon to be the, I guess, Lord Protector while Aegon is dealing with his burn issues. And now she finds herself completely out of the loop. Very much like how Cersei in some of those middle seasons of Game of Thrones, where she spent all this time in a position of power doing a lot of the dirty work, especially when Viserys went down and was getting older, and she had to take on a lot of that herself at the cost of her raising her children. And that's kind of come full circle here, where now her child's in a position of power and finding really in his eyes, no use for Alicent to still be on the small council.
Yeah, he did Alicent like Nancy Pelosi did Biden over the weekend. We could do this the easy way or the not so easy way. She was like, oh, goddamn. She just doesn't seem to get it. She's got no power here.
Right, and it's a tough pill to swallow, and it can be viewed as short-sighted from Aemon. I mean, like, honestly, if you look at it from like an outside perspective, like, what's the worst her sitting on the council is going to do? It's very much a play to assert himself and kind of get back for whatever slights that he perceived from Alicent, especially in his formative years.
Dude, I actually felt scared for her when she put her hand on his face.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
And we forget, just because like the way he handles himself and the way he looks, like when I see Aegon, I see a boy. When I see Aemon, I see like an experienced man, but like in reality, he's the younger brother.
Yeah, no, they're still very young. Because even when you think about season 1, when we were first introduced to them as kids, it's not that far off.
Well, Jace is like, they're all, yeah, Jace is older, I believe.
He's their big homie.
But I just, yeah, no, that's right. But I perceive him as somebody who is older and wiser, but he's not. He's still a kid. So I kind of forget that sometimes, just because how he's portrayed and how his character presents on screen.
Yeah, and then he has that meeting with Aegon now that Aegon's awakened, and he basically tells him to keep his mouth shut in a not so subtle way.
He still can't just be like, well, I'm still the king. Like, this happened. Can we just arrest him? I wonder how that would go down.
Well, I imagine
that's the easiest way to just pretend nothing happened.
Right, and there's got to be a genuine fear there of not even wanting to take that chance, because that was whiplash for Aegon. I think one of the best scenes now of season 2 is when he's drunk at the end of season 1 and he's talking with all his boys. And he says, Aemon is the best. I just named him to the small council. He'd never betray me. So he was just so blindsided. He has no idea who his younger brother is. And I think that speaks to the fact that he never made a point to really have a relationship with anybody in his family, his wife, his kids, his brother. So he just doesn't know how to read these people because he doesn't know them. And now it's just pure fear. This is not a man brave enough, especially in the condition he's in, to even take that chance. And he can barely put 2 words together. But the way that Aemon was pressing on his stomach,
just that raw skin still, like, ooh,
yeah, it's so nasty. Yeah. And he stops him in the middle of whatever treatment he's getting.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Aemon's like these type of rulers, we talked about it, like how, sometimes you need a stern presence, but he's very confident in his decisions. But we still don't know if those decisions are the right ones. I think the 3 biggest decisions he made, obviously we talked about with Alicent, putting her on the sidelines, and then potentially teaming up or making allegiance with the Triarchy. And then also when, this was a faux and Laris, we need a new hand, Cole was your brother, so like maybe me, I don't know, like I've been here for a while. And he makes, I think, a wise decision to bring back Otto, or at least make the attempt to bring back Otto Hightower. So, I mean, 3 pretty big decisions right off the bat, and we'll see how those fare for him.
Right, yeah, making the deal with the Triarchy to stop the blockade, because in the previous episode, he sort of ignores the growing problems with the small folk, and we see the way that Rhaenyra and Mysaria are able
Well, right,
to...
that's another big decision he made in regards to the small folk, and that backfires within this own episode, it looks like.
Right, yeah. And also the stuff bringing back Otto. I mean, that scene with Loras is so funny. See, Aemon is somebody who has Loras totally figured out. When he called him a toad, I thought that was hysterical. And he's like, surely you're up to the task of bringing Otto back to court. And Loras just shrinks back into his seat. Just goes right back into his hole.
Now I gotta go talk with the other brother. That didn't go well at all.
No, yeah. It looks like I have to fall back on Aegon. And even him, keeping his pain medication, withholding the meds, telling him to, it's time to buck up here. We need you back in shape.
And if Aegon fails, he's gonna end up next episode of me in fucking Dragonstone. Like, I guess I'll try her or Rhaenyra. Somebody want me, please.
He just shows up with Darren. No name. They should do Darren like they do parents on Cartoon Network shows, where we only see his body but never his head. Like Dexter's parents. Just keep him anonymous.
Her asking G Wayne about him. He's like, yeah, he's kind of like pretty well adjusted. I wonder what the variable there is. But don't blame yourself.
Yeah, no, it's not your fault.
It's not your fault. No.
It was a tender and sweet moment because they obviously have an understanding. They can relate to each other, what they've both had to do when it comes to duty. But he doesn't fully absolve her of responsibility. I think he's trying in his best way to comfort her, while also in the back of his head remembering her flaws. But how could you really fault her when she was, you mentioned this on the last video we did, she was at such a young age, taking on this responsibility of bringing these children up and then essentially ruling the kingdoms while Viserys was sick. So she's been under so much pressure, and maybe it's not being raised by Alicent. Maybe it's not just being in King's Landing. As G. Wayne says, this place brings out the worst in people, and we're seeing it with Aemon, where he's practical, but he's still a tyrant, and he's still, because of the way he was raised in King's Landing and he was always kept in the shadows, he feels like he has to prove himself, and it looks like he'll do anything to do that. So I found that moment to be unexpectedly sweet, and it always looks like they've had even from those first scenes together, that they've had a good, healthy relationship. I do find it funny how G. Wayne came into town skipping, and now he's limping like he's been running suicides nonstop. The full weight and reality of the situation is written all over that man's face now. He's not as clever as he once was.
Well, going back to Larys and Aegon, I thought that was a really good scene, especially the way he kind of put things into perspective, especially with him like saying that people will stare at you and whisper behind your back and whatnot, but this will be your advantage, them underestimating you. So it's interesting to see how Aegon, you know how people go through tragedy and they kind of use that as, instead of just giving up or accepting it, they battle back and kind of make it a strength, example of perseverance and dedication and stuff like that. You think Aegon's got that in him? Because he says, you got to use your mind and you're never going to be whole again. But we've seen Aegon and his decisions and his inability to really think things through. But I wonder if this time away from everything, kind of putting things into perspective, makes him a better potential, like to come back better.
I think Aegon trying to insert his will any way possible on this situation is going to make for interesting television. And it also puts Larys in a more powerful position because he's going to be so reliant on this character, and he kind of already was trending in that direction when he was able. I just think it's going to make things even messier,
because if he is starting to get his mind back, at what point is there going to be a conversation that Aegon, obviously he's not who he was, but he's awake, he's conscious, should he be back in the big seat right now? Because Aemon isn't king. So, the idea is once Aegon is somewhat back to normal, they can just go back to the way things were.
Even Aemon, when he gets the news that Aegon has awakened, he knows that that's just made his position slightly weaker, and that the healthier he gets, there's going to be people clamoring for him back on the throne, because maybe Aemon is smarter and more logical and more practical, but he's a dick. Aegon was a dummy. when Aegon was pissed about something, everybody just sort of ignored him and went back to talking about what they were talking about. So yeah, people may be they may be longing for Aegon back on the throne, or it's just going to become, like I said, it's just going to be so messy that it's going to cause even more division. That there are no good options here. They should have just voted for Alicent. Yeah, poor Alicent and Helena get caught up in the riots. I thought the way that the Mysaria spy was delivering those lines to the people in the tavern was so ridiculous. It was almost like a NPC in a video game.
Yeah.
Like, man, there's not a lot of food here, right? Am I right? Man, back when Viserys was around, it was free shrimp every Wednesday. All you could eat.
4 for 4s. Remember the 4 for 4? $5 footlongs. Now we're paying $14 for a footlong.
No, I mean, everywhere you go, the biggest problem on people's mind is inflation, especially in King's Landing. And then they're seeing them trot the lambs through the streets, and they're like, yo, where the fuck is our meat? Cost of war, it's literally these dragons. I can't imagine how many calories they're burning a day. It's got to be like 30,000.
Oh, yeah. I mean, fair. I think I would feed the dragons. Like, that's your most important tool.
Fucking fat dragons. Go on a diet. Get them on some meal prep.
No, it's like with us when people, like, when we complain about all the military spending. It's basically what it is. It's like how many like jets you build for $10 million each that don't even get used. That's what they're protesting about.
We're about to see why King's Landing doesn't have free healthcare, baby. Yeah, but a riot, I mean, people rioting at King's Landing just never goes well for the royals. Getting caught in the middle of that was intense. And poor Aegon's friends, bunch of dummies, they got killed. If I was Aemon, I would have delivered that news to. Oh, I guess that happened after. And next episode, Aemon's going to come back and be like, your dumbass friends got killed, by the way. I got nervous there for Helena and for Alicent. Even though Alicent, you know, she's had her issues in the past, but it's always scary when these characters get caught in the ruckus and the chaos. And it ends up being a brilliant plan there by Mysaria. You know, that food isn't going to solve all of their problems, but it's a reminder that it's Rhaenyra taking advantage of the situation, but it's what her father used to do as well. He made sure that it wasn't just him and his court having these huge feasts with all these different cakes and desserts and types of meat. You know, he kept everybody fed. He's a socialist. He makes sure everybody eats.
Well, how about Hugh Hammer fucking robbing that dude?
Well, that's my Hugh Hammer. That felt more like, 'cause so far they've tried to make him like, oh, he's just trying to do right by his family. He's just a good dude. But, you know, when you're in a desperate situation, sometimes you got to knock a motherfucker out for some cabbage.
Yeah, that's like, this is a bag of cabbage and carrots. I'd have been pissed.
Just knocking out everybody. Like, what's in the bag?
You got Slim Jims in there? It was a Slim Jim bag. But yeah, I mean, it was ended up being a very successful ploy there. I always feel bad. Like Helena, like one character on the green side who should just not be involved in any of this. It's her.
Yeah, send that poor baby off somewhere, man. Send her to Essos. Jesus Christ.
She had an interesting scene with when she's talking. What were they? Insects, I guess. She's talking to the cages, and she's like, "Oh, this one stopped singing." There's some weird hobbies.
I'm not judging her.
I feel like they've like sprinkled in some of her, I guess, abilities, or like she's a little bit different from everybody else.
Well, in this world where everybody's a murderous freak, she's like the most normal. If everybody was more like Helena, this would be a much happier world. Talking to bugs and saying weird things. A bit more level-headed. Did Alicent got smacked in the face with a fish, right?
I think that was a fish, yeah.
Yeah, that's brutal. Meanwhile, her former crush is over there getting it on with Mysaria, and Alicent's being smacked with fishes.
The Tullys send their regards. That's what they do.
Well, what did you think about that, just to go back over to Dragonstone with Rhaenyra and Mysaria? I think for me, it kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, I don't hate it. I think the two characters don't necessarily have a lot of chemistry when they're talking, and I think that just comes down to the writing being a little weak. I read that the kiss was improvised, and I thought when they did kiss and when the scene became more sensual, there was chemistry there. There was a little tension and a comfort that they both took in each other. But I found the writing to be so bland, especially when Mysaria is recounting her traumatic past. You know, just compare that to another Master of Whispers when Varys is telling Tyrion about his traumatic past. That scene is horrifying. The mood, the music, Tyrion's reactions.
Now, what if Tyrion kissed him?
Right. Maybe that scene wasn't as strong now that I'm thinking about it. But I think the setup was better, even though you didn't have the kiss. But this setup was just dumping information on someone. It was almost like Mysaria was trying to one-up her. Like, man, you think your life's bad. Look at this. Like growing up, things were bad, confusing for you. Look what happened. Look at this terrible thing that happened to me. I wanted her to be like, what the fuck? I didn't need to know that.
Yeah, I think that like every scene they've spent together, yeah, I agree with you. Like the chemistry hasn't really been all there. Their reaction when the Queen's Guard walks in on them, like you couldn't make it any more obvious that you guys were just kissing.
Dude, they didn't even like the way that they were both looking down. They barely
Yeah.
separated. You got to like look at the books. Like, yeah, no, yeah, Targaryen
no, good point.
bloodlines. I was gonna walk over here.
Yeah, no, you should definitely. Yeah, I think you can definitely ride a dragon. Oh, come in.
No kissing going on here. No kissing. Just talking. Just planning. Jace figured them out immediately when Mysaria came to tell her that the package was delivered. He's like, another step parent? What the fuck?
Yeah, he's upset. He just wants to be a part of things.
He did shoot
Maybe
them
not
both.
Yeah.
2 glares. He did a double face. He's like, whoosh, whoosh. Shit gave me whiplash.
I want to be involved.
Yeah, just give. I don't. Just tell me, Jesus. Everything was with you guys is secrecy.
Put together the menu, like anything. Jace would have put Slim Jims in there.
And this felt like a obvious foreshadowing, but when Rhaenyra's playing with the sword and Mysaria tells her it becomes you, I hated that line. Because I knew what it meant, but it almost comes off as unclear. Is it a magical sword? Is my soul going to be like katana? Oh shit! Let me put this down. But I think that kind of represents a lot of the scenes between Rhaenyra and Mysaria. They're meant to explore Rhaenyra's psyche and how she's feeling internally and how she feels that she's letting her side down because there's only so much she can do. And it's true. She's just kind of, walking around Dragonstone. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We've seen characters in one place for an entire season, and it's just really strong. And I think that not only, within the story does Rhaenyra appear to be, weak to those around her. Maybe it's not all of her fault. But from the outside looking in, it's kind of been a weaker storyline for her character this time around in season 2.
Yeah, I think we've talked about like with Rhaenyra throughout the season, but I feel like we're still waiting. Like we're getting all these glimpses, especially at the end of last season, beginning of this season, of her and the sword and everything like that. And I feel like now she's kind of, especially at the end, leaving with Syrax to confront whatever this problem with Sea Smoke may be, because they obviously don't know what's going on yet, to take more of an initiative. And
right.
Especially them not knowing if they're ever going to get anyone to be able to ride these dragons. So like in her head, if that's not something they can do, then she definitely needs to get into the fold in some way, because like they've talked about, it's just a utter mismatch now with the Greens and them and their current standing, not only in the air, but they talked about with their foot soldiers. They're kind of, they really have no idea what's going on in Harrenhal, but from like what they can see, they really don't have a firm grasp on what's going to become of the Riverlands. The North seems to be taking their time. There's no haste from the North.
No.
So yeah, she even thinks she even says it in the episode that they're probably not going to be able to win this war.
Yeah, they're definitely at a big disadvantage now, and that's why I wanted the dragon scene stuff, or the dragon seed aspect of these next few episodes, to be just chaos and more deadly. So then when it finally gets to a point, well, without spoiling it, I just thought it could have been a bit more reckless. But touching on Rhaenyra,
a little more urgency.
Yeah,
I feel like there's a lack of urgency this season as well, sprinkled across the whole thing.
Right, and I have no problem with things being slow. Game of Thrones was always slow. Didn't mind it whatsoever. I love slow movies. The slower, the better. Yeah, there's just, like you said, there's not urgency, and it feels like some moments are telling us things that we already know. Like when Rhaenyra is talking about Daemon, and she talks about how they're two sides of the same coin, that he was always what she wanted to be. I don't think that's new information for the audience, which isn't always necessarily a bad thing. But then when you think about what Damon's been doing this season, it's gotten to a point where it has to stop. Even though I love seeing Paddy Considine back in that role, and I don't even mind it because it's a fantasy show and there are flashbacks all the time in the books. So bring him on back, give him a few more scenes with Daemon. And I don't think, once again, what we're learning about Daemon is stuff that we kind of already knew, that he loved his brother, and that he probably regretted some of the behaviors and some of the things that he said, and that he wasn't there for him more when his wife passed, or when his children died in childbirth. It's cool to see Patty, but it's not really shedding a light on this character. Or it is, but it's showing me things that I kind of already knew were there. Like opening doors to rooms that I haven't been in, but I could predict what's inside. Who'd you run into?
Actually, Daemon. Shared an Uber together. Pretty crazy. He just walked in the Uber and it was fucking Daemon Targaryen. He stopped at Dwayne Reed and kept trying to talk to me about F1 and stuff. It was real weird guy, but it was cool. I was kind of starstruck. I'm like, what's Daemon Targaryen doing in the city?
Is this going somewhere, or did this actually happen?
No, it really happened.
Like Matt Smith got in your Uber?
No, Daemon Targaryen. God, I'm like, what the hell are you doing here? It's like, oh, just going to the store.
You be hanging out at some weird places, bro. You all right?
No, I'm fine.
Alice Rivers is putting some shit in your breakfast burrito, bro.
Just open the doors, Daemon Targaryen. I'm
you need a taster.
Take your dragon. And he's like, oh, this is more efficient. I'm like, all right, bro.
Poor Caraxes, dude. He's like everybody else. He's screeching. He's sighing. He's like a kid when you've got him out for too long. He's just acting up.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was definitely great to see Patty Considine again. It just reminds us of like that, we talked about there seems to be a hole in this season where after he left us. But it was kind of, it was funny when he was like, did you really say after the day? He's like, are you still going on about that? You're not over that yet? Like, come on. It was literally like not even a season ago. It was like, what, 10 years ago now at this point?
Back when Damon had a different hairstyle.
Yeah, no, he's got to bring that back. That was actually a fresh cut.
Yeah, it was.
But him awakening from that fever dream and just putting the knife to Strong's fucking throat. Like, is this you? It's like, no, Damon. Clearly the creepy lady that's been following you around these past few weeks. Simon didn't even look like he was I don't think for 1 second he thought Damon was gonna cut his throat. He's like the coolest I've ever seen someone with a knife to their throat ever.
Yeah, I thought that
you check your sleep schedule. Like, not me, man. It's fucking Harrenhal, dude. It's haunted. What do you want me to tell you?
They can't kill me off. The audience loves me. The Nerd Soup boys love me. You've got nothing on me, motherfucker. But like you said, to your point, who could be doing this? And Alice Rivers over there staring at him cross-eyed and saying the weirdest shit, predicting things left and right.
I'm like 10,000 years old, probably. It's definitely something weird going on with me. But yeah, definitely Simon Strong.
And as much as I love Matt Smith as an actor, because I do love him as this character and in other stuff, when he was yelling at Alice Rivers, I thought that was just some poor acting. That did not convince me whatsoever that man was startled by his situation or upset or angry. Maybe he's just, some actors aren't great yellers. Maybe he's just not a good yeller. And even his crying, I was like,
yeah, but I did like the scene between him and Alice. I mean, we've talked about it, and it's kind of back to the whole Jon Snow thing when she says, like, basically Varys never wanted it, more of a burden than it is something you should seek after and things like that. And that's, been a theme throughout. I mean, the
world.
Best kings, aren't the ones who strive for it. I guess he kind of put the hit out on, like, what'd she say? Like, just give it a couple days and you'll know what's going on here.
Yeah, when Simon Strong says that she was the last one to treat Grover Tully.
Yep, now he's dead.
Poor Grover. Now it's Oscar who...
It would be funny if they had some of the same traits as the Muppets.
Or if they were actually Muppets.
Yeah. It's like, oh, tell me about this Lord Oscar now. It's like, oh, loves trash. His cousin, Big Bird Tully.
I'm still waiting for Big Bird Tully, baby.
Yeah, he's leading a force. He's going to cut off the Lannister troop.
Talk about wanting dragon riders. You get Big Bird on your side? Somebody on the back of Big Bird? That probably wouldn't go well.
I was thinking Big Bird on the back of a dragon.
Oh my God. Double flight? Could pull off some sick maneuvers with that.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think when are we ultimately going to get over this Daemon arc? How long are they going to dig at it?
Well, see, this is where I suggested that instead of doing the multiple POVs, there was a chance here to separate yourself from the way Game of Thrones was told and maybe dedicate an entire episode to this stuff at Harrenhal. And I know then you kind of have to play with the timeline there a little bit, but I feel like the audience is smart enough to know this is occurring as other events are occurring. That's kind of how George justified jumping around in book 4, that some things, just because one chapter is before a certain chapter, that doesn't mean that necessarily happened before those events. So I think maybe if they just did like a full 67 minutes Damon at Harrenhal being haunted, making it like the Damon Harrenhal movie, and then leaving that character for a few episodes, I don't think that would have hurt the show. But as I said, it seems to be repetitive. It seems to be repeating things. This idea that Rhaenyra didn't want the throne, that's why she was meant for it. And Damon being this power-hungry, ambitious guy, of course he wouldn't be fit to rule. It's not like a light went on in my head when he had that conversation with Alice, and I was like, yeah, you know what? She's right, Damon. You need to chill. We've known this about Damon since like the end of episode 1. So I think if you kind of mash it all together, it would have been an easier pill to swallow for the audience. At this point, it does feel like a totally different show. It's almost kind of funny when they switch to Harrenhal and he's still there walking around the castle. And I think that the execution hasn't been as strong as when he first got there. His first arrival at Harrenhal is one of my favorite scenes of the entire season, when he's just walking around with the sword, stepping real carefully and quietly, and you're hearing all the sounds. You don't know what's real or not. And I think as it's gone on, it has gotten weaker. So I think, obviously it's got to wrap up soon because the season's going to end.
Yeah. What if they left like Yelp reviews on castles like we do hotels?
Harrenhal's sitting at like a 2.7 right now, dude.
It's like top reviewer, Daemon Targaryen. It's dirty, leaky ceilings, bugs everywhere. Induces lucid nightmares. 5 stars.
5 stars, yeah. This is awesome.
Yeah. But, with this death, I mean...
Motherfucker
maybe
got
Daemon
lucky. That's why he was crying.
Yeah.
It's like, thank fucking God.
Finally do what he's set out there to do. Put together a nice little force in the Riverlands. And then things might start looking up for Team Black.
He's going to come back to Rhaenyra and be like, yeah, it was I wasn't sending any messages because it was tough. I had to deploy all my diplomatic skills. I had to butter up this guy and that guy and do this and that. But we did it, Rhaenyra. We got this army for you, and I never had any doubts about serving you. I've always been clear-headed on that. You're the queen. You're awesome.
I'm also in love.
Yeah, and I also love this creepy little freaky girl who basically bailed me out.
Oh, no, it's Simon Strong.
I've actually, in true Targaryen tradition, I've taken on 2 spouses. It's just that the shot of Aegon with his 2 wives, and it's Daemon Photoshop with Simon and Alice. Well, Corlys too. When he puts on the hand of the king pin, essentially just offers no advice at the small council meeting. It would have been cool for him to, I don't know, say something about Valyrian lore or his family being related. I don't know, something.
He's been a little underwhelming this season, but I think a lot of his story aligns with his sons and kind of him trying to, it's a tough position, kind of realizing maybe he wasn't the best in the past and trying to make up for it now. And I think that makes for a good dynamic between the 2 brothers, obviously one having more, maybe not resentment, maybe there's a bit of that, but like hesitancy, like why now all of a sudden, like not feeling totally comfortable with it. But I always mix them up, Adam and Alan. These names, man, too much. Too
I know.
Similar.
Can't any siblings just be named Maximilian and Pete?
Yeah. No, you're right.
You're not mixing up that. You're not mixing up Maximilian and Pete, Adam, Alan. But it's even in that moment,
Maximilian Velaryon goes kind of hard though.
Oh, that guy would fucking have 3 dragons. But like in that moment, what if you do, Corlys is trying to, make this relationship better because he feels like he owes them. And he goes to them and he goes, hey, the queen's got this great idea that anybody with Valyrian blood could claim a dragon. And then they're like, that's what you offer us? You offer us paradise or death? And he's like, what? Yeah. I thought it'd be a great idea. And then they're like, get out of here. We hate you. And then they show up later at the Dragon Seed Olympics. And then,
I mean, Adam would be all about it.
Oh, no. Yeah. And then you could have like a little riff between the brothers. Just gives them a little bit more depth. I'm not saying I'm a writer, but goddamn, I'm available. Corlys, I mean, the Valyrian dreadlocks are just so powerful. There's no way that man, I mean, he didn't need to claim a dragon, but I think that would be, fun to see also naming Adam his first mate or naming Alan his first mate and running it back with the triarchy. It's an old rivalry.
Yeah, it stems deep.
Yeah, that's like,
so I guess Adam doesn't get the silver hair, but Alan does.
Yeah, that's fun. Not all Targaryens throughout history always get that silver hair. I mean, Jace is the most Targaryen prince, or the most like a Targaryen prince you would imagine so far in the show. And the seed is strong, literally.
It is so funny. The two silver-haired Valyrians, and then there's Jace, black hair. Like, we know, but we're not going to say anything.
I mean, Rhaenyra and Laenor trying to pass that off was honestly crazy. Well, what do you think about Laenor? Because, the idea that a dragon can't bond while their dragon rider's still alive, he's dead off screen, and the dragon does bond with his brother. Readers of the book always, there was the theory that Laenor came back as Adam, that they were the same guy, but that's obviously not true here.
Yeah. If he died off screen, there's no point then to have that whole ruse in season 1, except to just reinforce that Rhaenyra's a good guy.
They should have just killed that motherfucker. I love you, Laenor, but...
Well, yeah, I mean, that speaks to, like, what some of the changes. Obviously, the whole Laenor thing, and, Rhaenyra would have had some part to play in that. And even if you made this, the whole dragon seed thing, more towards the books, like just the, I know we're sacrificing people here, but this is what we have to do. Sometimes you got to get ugly. And the reluctance for her not to get ugly sometimes, I think, I don't want to say it makes the character less interesting, more of the overall, everything that's happening at Dragonstone, just less interesting.
I mean, Emma Darcy got a hard time being ugly. I'll tell you that much. They showed up with that grill to the premiere. Oof, changed my fucking life. The arrow earring. My goodness.
It is crazy, like just the lack of a better word, I guess the aura you have to have just to rock a grill.
Dude, especially like being British.
If I showed up somewhere with a grill, I would get fucking destroyed.
Yeah. They knew what they were doing.
It's that, and it's also like, even if you do get destroyed, you'd be like, I don't care. I would care so much.
Oh, it would crush me.
I'd go to the bathroom and take it out.
Stupid.
That's the lamest thing you do is get made fun of for having a grill and show up 5 minutes later without the grill.
I honestly think I would rather be able to rock a grill than ride a dragon.
Well, yeah, because dragons don't exist.
These dragons aren't practical? What the fuck? God, I hate CGI. Yeah, so my last point would be to just keep going when it comes to aura and charisma. It does feel like even an actor like Sononya Mizuno, I've seen her in other things where she is so charismatic and sexy and sensual. And it does feel like some of that does get blunted a bit. So, I mean, that's my overall problem, I think, today in Hollywood is sometimes I understand you're adapting something, but you have to know what you're working with. And if you got an actor who's capable of being that sexy on a red carpet, give them some moments in the show where they can be that sexy. Because the kiss being improvised, it was almost like she had to force it. Like, yeah, let me be sexy here. But if you see that the characters have that sort of chemistry and the actors want to take it in that direction, change your script up a little bit. Give me a little lead up, a little wink and a nod and a blush and a brush of the hands, or some sort of physical contact and a glance, instead of just looking worried all the time. Everybody's always looking off into the distance worried. Make them look sexy.
Yeah. Also, was funny when they mentioned the Greyjoys. They haven't really picked a side yet.
Typical Greyjoys, right?
They somehow think they're going to win the war.
Like, once we summon this Kraken, it's a fucking wrap.
So yeah, we'll let them kill each other, and the only logical successor after the fucking Targaryens destroy each other is Greyjoy supremacy.
I feel like the Greyjoys should all be the same actors too, like the phrase. There's two families that, like in cartoons, when you look back at your great-great-grandpa and it's just the same character. That should be the Greyjoys. All right, guys, that does it for this episode review of House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 6. Thank you so much for listening, for watching. Leave your comments down below. What did you think about this episode? Are we being too harsh? Are you guys going to crucify us for our criticisms? We're just trying to be honest, man. Aaron, thanks so much for joining us. For joining me, not us.
Oh, no problem.
I do sometimes.
That'll be a funny, yeah. No, I was gonna be like, that'd be a way, like an awesome way to soft launch your multiple personality disorder.
I was just about to say, yeah. Got some new news here. No, I figured out how to ignore them.
Yeah, there are signs if you go back. I mean, the whole Beau Oliver Reuben thing, that's staring right at us.
I mean, dude, seriously, at times it did give me an identity crisis because I started to refer to myself in my eternal monologue as Beau.
Yeah. Now that's how I'd name you.
Yeah, that was so funny. I remember one time we were playing Smash and you were like, you and Teddy were arguing about something. And you were like, no, that was Beau. And we all just stopped. We were like, whoa.
I was just you as fucking Gollum, just arguing with yourself.
Yeah, we have to record it for. No, we don't. Let's push it tomorrow. All right, guys. See you next episode. That was my Gollum impression. You guys like that?
It's terrible.